I am. My God.
Yeah.
This
I
meeting
know.
is being live streamed. Well, okay.
Jundo wants to train everyone to be techno-enos. Even like Sekishi's dog is going to be a techno-eno, just in case.
I bow to that idea deeply and profoundly.
Maddie, could you do it?
It is. I do find it hard at Tree Leaf actually because my technological skills. Somewhere in my 20s, I was great
like
with
that.
computers.
Right, lay down. Lay down. Down.
Do you see my leaf?
Where's your leaf? Is it big? What? What is it?
It's my leaf.
Okay.
I keep it in water. It stays on the altar.
Yeah, mine too, but it's getting pale. I'm not sure. This is the fourth one, I think, so far. But
This is my second, and look at it. It's been here for 2 months since the
no.
previous
I
time.
mean, this is the fourth ceremony I've used it for.
So you have to win, regardless.
No. Like I'm saying, like I don't think it's got much. It's just getting paler and paler.
It's this, and then it's gone.
Yeah, this. I mean, I'm going to keep it in there and just see what happens, but I'm not optimistic.
Newsflash is gonna die.
Yeah.
Newsflash.
I picked a yarrow stalk just now, just outside. So. Hey, I'm glad you made it because I meant to message you yesterday. Are those bases?
You're muted.
You're muted, yeah.
Yeah, they're basses and one guitar.
It's nice. I always think we should have like a bass dub version of the Heart Sutra one day.
I'm down with that. I'm
Lots of reverb.
I'm down with that as well. I already made 2 versions, so I might as well do it.
That's great. Beyond's kind of. Do you do like music production, or I don't know what it is you do exactly, but.
Oh, that's very nice. Yes, that's what I do.
It's okay. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Today is the full moon, so as usual, we join together and we reflect back on the last month, and especially as we're studying the precepts at the moment during Ango and Jukai preparations. We kind of just reflect on how the last months have gone and how we've lived up to those precepts, and then we kind of retake them. I've often said this, but Shohaku Okamura says that in Zen we move from vow to atonement and back to vow again. We make our vows always thinking that we're going to keep them, but kind of knowing that as fallible human beings, that we're going to slip up somewhere. So then we atone for where we've done wrong, and then we vow again. And this is why these kind of ceremonies exist and have existed since the time of the Buddha, to give the members of the Sangha a chance just to do that, to reflect on their practice and their life, and then to recommit to what they're doing. And actually, it's great that we're looking at the precepts again, because I've said this often, every month, I'm surprised by one or more of the precepts. I kind of forget it's there or how it's worded. So it's just a really good reminder. I saw today that either today or yesterday, Jundo posted from his book about Fuken Zazengi, and that's another text I have to read every 2 months. It's like a a page of basic instructions for Zazen, and I reread it every couple of months, and I'm always surprised just by what it says and how, I mean, it's direct and straightforward, but there's always something I miss, and it kind of just puts me right. It's like somebody coming round to correct your posture just by going over this stuff again. And I'm sure you've noticed this. You get to a certain stage of your practice and you're not doing new stuff. You're just going over the stuff. I mean, it probably feels a lot like that from the beginning, because sitting is just the same act again and again. It's never the same, but it's the same act. Likewise, the precepts, they're always the same. And we're always recommitting to them, yet how they appear to us in life is different each time, each day, each moment. So it is, this is what, and Bjorn said it in the, when Jundo posted, the practice isn't practice in order to get better, in order to be preparing for something. It will be, we're always preparing for life, but we prepare for life by living life. And it's just an ongoing thing of just practicing by living our life and doing the best we can. And yeah, it's just, that's the way it is. So when we gather together each month to do this, we're just reflecting on our practice and just continuing on our practice. Not Jundo, I'm confusing Jundo and Dogen, I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Dogen has a couple of fascicles in Shobogenzo. He talks about continuous practice, and it is that. It's just Zen and life are just continuous practice. That's all it is. It's not, there's no end to it. If you get enlightened, if you get transmitted as a teacher, whatever, it's still just continuous practice. From your first day in a Zendo, when you just sit shikantaza, to your last day on earth, maybe as an abbot of Eheji, you're just on the cushion sitting shikantaza and then doing what needs to be done in the meantime. And that's just the way it is. So yeah, sorry if you're expecting something deep and mystical to happen along the way. And maybe, you know, things do, and those are lovely too. It's just, that's all part of living life. So anyway, as I do, before we start, I just like to have a reading generally on the theme of ethics or the precepts. And for Ango, I've actually been trying to read a fascicle a night of Shobogenzo, and I haven't quite succeeded, but I think I've done like 75% of the time. Some have taken longer, and this was a long one, Gyoji, which does mean continuous practice. So I think Nishijima translates it slightly different. I think Tanahashi calls it continuous practice. But anyway, this is what Dogen says. In the great truth of the Buddhist patriarchs, there is always pure conduct, an observance of precepts above which there is nothing. It continues in an unbroken cycle, so there is not the slightest interval between establishment of the mind, training, bodhi, and nirvana. Conduct and observance is a continuous cycle. For this reason, it is not doing that is forced from ourselves, and it is not doing that is forced from outside. It is conduct and observance that has never been tainted. So he's saying, yeah, it's not coming from within us, it's not coming from external circumstances, but I guess it's sort of both and neither, as it often is in Zen. Just we allow actions, just kind of, when we let go of ego and trying to achieve something, trying to get a credential, that's when we just allow actions to arise as and of themselves in the circumstances. It's just the universe, as Shuna says, just the universe flowing through us and out of us. It's dependent arising. The virtue of this conduct and observance maintains ourselves and maintains the outside world. The import is that in the moment of my conduct and observance, the whole earth and whole sky through the 10 directions are totally covered by the virtue of my conduct and observance. Others do not know it, and I do not know it, but it is so. thus through the conduct and observance of the Buddhas and the patriarchs. Our own conduct and observance is realized, and our own great state of truth is penetrated. It is due to our own conduct and observance that the virtue of this cycle exists. Through this means, every Buddha and every patriarch abides as Buddha, transcends as Buddha, realizes the mind as Buddha, and is realized as Buddha without any interruption. Through this conduct and observance, the earth and space exist. Through this conduct and observance, object and subject, body and mind exist. Through this conduct and observance, the 4 elements and 5 aggregates exist. Conduct and observance is not loved by worldly people, but it may be the real refuge of all human beings. Through the conduct and observance of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, the Buddhas of past, present, and future are realized. Now, before we start the ceremony proper, I just want to say, because often we get to the end of offering incense and it's kind of like 3 prostrations kind of appear and we're not ready for it. So just to say, this is kind of like at the beginning of a Zazenkai. So I often say, I've got mobility issues, so I won't be standing to do this, but instead be indicating what's happening in different ways. But we have, after the offering of incense, and do like Jundo would do, kind of come back round, and then Sekoshi does the bell roll down, and then as there would be in the Zazenkai, then we do 3 prostrations. So just to let you know, so it doesn't come as a surprise. And also I posted a talk by Enkyo Ohara of Roshi, who's at the Village Zendo in New York, and she gave a talk about this ceremony. And one thing she said that they like to do at her Sangha is when we recite the verse of atonement 3 times, in order to kind of make that an embodied thing. So when we're sort of confessing and atoning, to kind of bring our body into that, at the end of each recitation, she likes everyone to do a prostration. I thought that was really nice. So I thought we could try that just to see how that goes. So we can see that's part 3. But anyway, yes. We should begin as normal, just with the offering of incense. Lovely. Now we're just going to sit zazen for 5 minutes. as I said at the beginning, this is a opportunity to look back at practice and think about how we're doing. And as such, although we have the verse of atonement a lot at Trig Leaf and the Zazenkai and other instances of practice, in this ceremony, it's seen as so important. So it's recited 3 times rather than the usual once. And as I also said, if we could try and incorporate prostration at the end of each recitation, and we'll see how that feels and how that goes. And you can let me know afterwards whether it was a useful addition or not. So, verse of atonement 3 times. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. I should have said at the beginning of that, if you can do full standing prostrations, that's great. But if not, a sitting gasho is fine, or even just prostrating in your heart and visualizing doing that. And we continue the ceremony by invoking the presence of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as symbols of our pure conduct and continuous practice. Homage to the 7 Buddhas of the past as symbols of our connection through time. Homage to Shakyamuni Buddha, a person of this earth. Homage to Miroku Buddha, symbol of hope for the future. Homage to Monju Bodhisattva, symbol of great wisdom. Homage to Fugan Bodhisattva, symbol of great activity. Homage to Kanzeon Bodhisattva, symbol of great compassion. Homage to the successive generations of ancestor bodhisattvas. we now recite the 4 Bodhisattva vows after confessing and atoning, or kind of confessing is, if we don't really confess, but it's reflection, thinking. We recite the 4 Bodhisattva vows as a symbolic, not symbolic, as we're putting into words how we wish our conduct to be and our practice in the future. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable. This next bit seems to be many people's favorite part. So grab your greenery. This is a symbolic purification. We really, as we're talking about continuous practice and precepts and observation, and purification really comes through practice and words, thoughts, and deeds. But symbolically, it's nice in the context of a ceremony like this to symbolically cleanse ourselves of anything we might have done wrong over the last 30 days or so. So we take our piece of greenery or our fingers, depending on what we have, and 3 times we just flick some water over our forehead. I always think it's interesting. I don't know what all of your religious backgrounds are, but I'm sure when I grew up in sort of nominally Christian, I'd go to baptisms and things like that. And it's just interesting how these kind of acts, similarly, lighting a candle, I think all religions have this lighting a candle and some sort of incense or burning of herbs or whatever. And again, the water for the purification just seems to be another of those acts which you can find in almost every single religious tradition. I guess it's not surprising since we bathe in water to cleanse ourselves. It's understandable we might see that as a way to kind of spiritually cleanse ourselves as well. But I think it's just, they're all gestures that make a connection in the human mind of something meaning something, lighting a candle to kind of show that something special's happening, and then there's light in darkness. Incense produces beautiful scents which kind of spread out like teachings, and then you've got water which is purifying, and I'm sure there's many other things, bells as well, and drums that are used in different contexts. So it's just like, I just find it really interesting how these things find their way amongst most human traditions. So for the next part of the ceremony, we recommit to the precepts. And it's traditional in Zen and many East Asian forms of Buddhism to recite from the Brahmajala Sutra, the Brahma's Net Sutra, which contains the East Asian Mahayana presentation of precepts and Vinaya rules. So I say a line first and then say, join your palms in reverence, and then we put hands in gasho. So first of all you disciples of the Buddha, join your palms in reverence and listen wholeheartedly. Hands in gasho. I would now like to articulate the preface to the great precepts of the Buddhas. Of the members of the Sangha will quietly listen, and they know that they have done wrong, they will atone, and then they will be at ease if they atone. If they do not repent, their wrongdoing will grow more grievous. Those who have done wrong are silent, and because of their silence, you should know they are all purified. Dear members of the Sangha, listen well. In this difficult age, when the lifetime of the Buddha sometimes seems distant, you should revere the Pratimoksha. The Pratimoksha is none other than these precepts. When you observe these precepts, it is like darkness meeting with light. It is like someone poor attaining a treasure. It is like someone who is ill being healed. It is like a prisoner being released from his chains. It is like a traveler who is able to return home. You should know that these rules are the great teacher for this Sangha, no different from the presence of the Buddha in this world, here and now. Thoughts of fear are difficult to produce. Unwholesome thoughts are difficult to give rise to. A sutra says, do not trivialize minor misdeeds as if they're not problematic. Drops of water, although tiny, will gradually fill a large basin. A single instant of wrongdoing can lead you to fall into a hell of uninterrupted suffering. Once you lose your human body, you may not get another for 10,000 kalpas. Just as a galloping horse passes by swiftly, one's physical strength will not remain. The transience of human life goes beyond the mountains and seas. Even if something remains for the duration of one day, it will be quite difficult to hold on to it tomorrow. Members of the Sangha should each energetically advance their own minds. Be careful not to be lazy, negligent, drowsy, or arbitrary. In the evening, you must gather your thoughts and focus them firmly on the three treasures. Don't take as being a waste of time the effort to deepen your repentance for those of later generations. Members of the Sangha, each of you in your own mind should carefully rely on these precepts. Discipline yourselves in the practices that accord with the Buddha's teachings. So we now go into the part where we recommit to the 16 precepts of the Zen tradition. We all have hands in gasho and recite these together, beginning with the three refuges. Respectful devotion to Buddha, respectful devotion to Dharma, respectful devotion to Sangha, devotion to Buddha, the Supreme One, devotion to Dharma, the supreme purity and teaching, devotion to Sangha, the supreme community. perfect devotion to Buddha, perfect devotion to Dharma, perfect devotion to Sangha. We continue with the 3 pure precepts. Today, I reaffirm my commitment to seek as I can in this body and life to avoid doing harm, to seek as I can in this body and life to live in a healthful and helping way, doing good, to seek as I can in this body and life to live for the benefit of all sentient beings. Then we move on to the 10 Fundamental Precepts. Today, I reaffirm my commitment to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from the killing of life, to seek as I can in this body and life to live in generosity and refrain from taking that which is not given, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from misusing sexuality and all desire, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from false and malicious speech, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from intoxication in its many forms, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from unconstructively criticizing the errors and faults of others, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from praising myself and judging others, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from stinginess in bestowing the Buddhist teachings and all precious things, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from all anger, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from disparaging the 3 treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Abiding in this ephemeral world, may we exist in muddy water with purity like a lotus. Nothing escapes the boundless mind. Thus we bow to Buddha.
Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here and now. In reaffirming our commitment to the precepts, we dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha Honored One, the historical Buddha and teacher, to the all-pervading and everlasting 3 treasures, to all arhats and bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, and their relations throughout the Dharma worlds. May our sincere vows to accomplish and live the enlightened way be realized together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, mahasattvas,
Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I know it's different times of the day for all of you, and this time, it's an arbitrary time. It's not always easy to get to. So I just appreciate it when anyone turns up for this, sits with us on Zoom, watching on YouTube, or sits with us later. Thank you so much for coming and being part of the Sangha and committing to this practice. Now take care, and I'll see you later. Have a good day.